There we go. What's going on, y'all? You're now tuned into another episode of the Intermission podcast, season 3. First and foremost, y'all, I already told y'all this on the last episode, but Happy New Year! We made it! We made it, y'all. I am so excited once again for just a new year, another opportunity to make some big moves. And so with that, y'all, I have another guest with me today. I have another Clubhouse connection for y'all. For my folks that don't really be on the platform too much, I got a Clubhouse Connect for y'all, all right? So, man, listen, I have one of the illest dudes there is on the platform, y'all. He's one of the pioneers of many of the rooms that we see today. He has surely became one of my favorite people on the app with his many clubs. Man, listen, this dude, he discusses everything from health equity, diversity, inclusion, tech, and you can catch him on some hip hop and R&B clubs as well. But whatever rooms you catch this man in, he's going to be promoting all things based in love and creating his own fate. So please welcome my Canadian brother, Mohit. Hi, Mohit.
Hey, Cami. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm over here trying to stay warm in Toronto, you know what I mean?
Yes. Listen, I feel you. I'm currently looking outside right now and it's blizzard season over here in the Midwest. So we here.
Oh yeah.
All right. So listen, Mohit, this is your first time on the pod. And I don't know why I stopped doing this.
First time caller, you know what I mean?
Yes, you're the first time on the pod.
Yeah.
I stopped doing this with guests last season, but I don't know why. So I'm gonna pick an old habit back up with you, right? So if you had one 90s to 2000s hip hop and R&B song to describe how you are feeling right now, what song would that be? And why?
Hip hop and R&B?
Yeah. Had to hit you.
Oh my gosh. That is hard. Okay, but how I'm feeling right now.
Yes.
Shoot, I'm gonna just say I'm looking right on top of my desk over here.
Okay.
I got this this digital print from an artist in Oakland who does these, like, he I can't tell my camera right now, but he does these this art form that incorporates lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, one of my biggest fandoms, you know what I mean, Wu-Tang. So you don't know.
No, I'm saying, we gonna go there. You about to go Wu-Tang?
Oh, I'm gonna go Wu-Tang. So I'm gonna say right now, the mood that I'm feeling to be fully, you know, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna choose 2. I'm gonna choose 3. I'm cheating.
You cheating for real, Bowie. Okay, come on.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to with, you know what I mean? I'm choosing Nas. I know I can. And yes! I'm choosing Hove 30-something.
I know you did not just do that.
I'm choosing Hove 30-something because I don't got the bright watch, I got the right watch. I don't buy out the bar, I bought the night spot. That's right now, you know what I mean?
And you hit us with the bars? Okay. All right, Mohit. Welcome.
That's the vibe I'm on right now, you know what I mean?
Welcome to the pod. Oh, man, I love the energy. So we gonna keep that. Y'all. And y'all already know I got y'all with those drops. Man, but all right. So y'all, I met Mohit once again on the Clubhouse app. And for me, Mohit, all I remember is just like seeing you in these different rooms. And every room you were in, you were always serving as a strong voice, not only in quality, because, you know, your mic, you know, podcaster to audio, sound podcaster, we know what the quality sounds like. So I just remember your voice, obviously, you know, coming through the mic with a lot of quality, but also just in terms of like the rooms that you were in, more so like the service and how you were helping others share their journeys and wisdom, something that I do here on the Intermission podcast, that I literally thought of the perfect topic for today's episode. So you ready?
Wow, I'm ready.
All right. So today's topic is going to be identifying your purpose in a room.
Okay, now we're talking. You going there. Okay.
Yes, we go in there.
I'm ready for this.
All right. So with storytelling, a lot of times folks that are assisting others tell their stories more. You know this, like we forget the importance of just sharing our stories. So just thinking back to young Mohit, right? You know, kid Mohit, not meeting Prince in Paisley Park, you know, for a slight second. Yeah, not on stages. Not on stages with Oprah mode, okay? Not young OG hip hop R&B mode, okay? We'll get back to all that later.
Your homework, okay.
Yeah, but can you briefly identify and describe for us the first room that you believe started to shape your understanding and comprehension of your identity and purpose?
When you say the first room, are you talking about on Clubhouse?
No, I'm talking about like the first room in your life, like where you started to identify your purpose. Just go back.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one. I think the first time I started to understand, but not fully identify, because oftentimes we recognize certain things at a young age, right?
Yeah.
I was maybe in the 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I should preface by saying I didn't grow up the same way most people do.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get a chance to actually go to grade school most of the time. I spent maybe max 4 days a month in grade school for every grade, with the exception of grade 6. And that's because I spent the first 11 years of my childhood growing up on my deathbed in a pediatric hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of the days that I was actually in school in the 4th grade, I was asked to speak with a student in a lower grade, and it's because this child had been diagnosed with an illness, and the school administrator just wanted me to speak to the kid as like the local representative of, like, you know, of what they identify as sick kids, right? But as someone with a disease. And so yeah, so when I had spoken with this kid and just realized, like, no, you know, his family, like, loves him and they support him, but at the same time, they don't understand what he's going through.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, we were young. Like, I was in grade 4, he was probably in grade 3 or 2 or something. I mean, like, we're really small.
Yeah.
We don't have language skills developed really necessarily yet, but there was an emotion there, and I just felt like that was the first time that I connected, recognizing that the life that I'm leading, I'm not the only one in it, and that part of why I might be going through it is to help others understand how they can get through it too. And that was the first time I think that ever identified or clicked in my mind that I serve a bigger purpose than just me, but I serve as potentially a conduit, you know?
Okay. So you talked about, you know, being able to speak to that other younger child and being in that room with them. And then you also briefly just talked about, you know, growing up as a child who necessarily did not have the same life or upbringing or childhood as a lot of others due to a physical illness. And then what that could have entailed, right? Just, you know, being in the hospital multiple times, like not being present and things like that. Do you think that being in those rooms of solitude allowed you to have more thoughts of identity and purpose compared to like kids who did not have to go through what you went through and just kind of have more opportunities to just go out and be free? Like you really had to sit down as a kid and really think about like those overarching big purpose, you know, type things where we're thinking like, what we gonna eat today? Like, but do you think that that's what it was too?
Absolutely. But you know what? It's interesting you bring that up, because I think a lot of that came into perspective in retrospect.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense in the beginning. In the beginning, I was forced to think about it. But when you are, like, I've always felt like an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up with this perspective of wanting to fit in,
Yeah.
I did not understand my true identity until later on, because I was under what would be, I was still too close to, I wasn't speaking from the scar. I still had an open wound, you know what I mean? Literally and figuratively, right? So
Yeah.
I was dealing with this situation where I did not want to identify with the only identity that I knew, because I was born with a rare genetic illness, right? So I was only known as that. And I think I made a bigger effort to change the way my identity was. And in the past, I used to go by a shortened nickname of my name. And that's because that was given to me from other people in the neighborhood I grew up in. And I was too young to recognize the implications of this gentrified name that erases my identity. But it was just a way for me to be like, oh, people are accepting me, right?
Yeah.
The first identity outside of my illness that people actually got to know me for was for being the local hip hop hit. You know what I mean? So that was the first thing that everyone's just like, that's the music guy. That's the guy who knows everything about like this music. He knows about what is this dance hall thing? What is soca thing? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like that was the first identity that I had outside of my illness, and that's what I kind of fell deeper into. But I had a lot of time to think about identity, but more so about the identity I wanted as opposed to the identity I thought I only had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you already started getting to like just my next question. I'm like, he going. All right.
Yeah.
So, talking about those identities that were then given to you, right? Depending on like those rooms. So as you have began to heal and grow and evolve from that first room or for that first identity, right? What professional or personal opportunities provided you with access to different rooms that began to shift your understanding of your purpose beyond what you have formerly known?
Ooh, sorry. 1 second. I hear my dog whimpering. He just needs to come back inside. Just 1 second.
Okay. We gonna be right back, y'all. We gonna be right back, y'all.
I'm so sorry about that.
You good. You got a dog. Look, for all my dog parents out there that's listening, y'all know the struggle.
Yeah, he was crying. I think you just saw his tail wagging on the came back inside. So sorry. So just to repeat. So the question is, what are the first rooms where I started to identify that, or
no, like what professional or personal opportunities provided you access to different rooms that then began to shift your understanding of your purpose beyond what you had formerly thought? So you already started, talking about, when you were a kid, shifting from, oh, that's the kid that has this illness to then this is the hip hop dude.
yeah.
I now want to get off into more of like your adulthood, now that you're healing, you're growing, you're out, right? You're no longer in that secluded room. You're no longer in those spaces where you need constant medical attention and things like that. Once you got out into like your professional field, into this world, what were some of those rooms that you had access to that began to shift your understanding of your purpose even more?
I'll tell you. I always, whenever I think about something of this nature, I always wish that I had a clear like moment where it did, but it wasn't that clear. It was more gradual. I think I first started to notice. So after, okay, so I'm from Quebec. I'm from Montreal. So over there, we don't have like, once you finish high school, you don't have college or university. You have kind of what's considered like a college. So we finished high school in grade 11. Then we have 2 years of like a pre-university and then university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I was in, which we call CJEP, when I was in CJEP, I did not want to be there.
Okay.
I was in this remedial program that was just for like, okay, you barely got here. Like, just learn a little bit more about everything, and then we'll help you figure out like what you want to do. And I already knew what I wanted to do, but coming from a Punjabi household, I was not allowed to do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so then I ended up in like child psychology, and I jumped into like digital systems and all this stuff. But I was like, no, I'm gonna continue doing this music thing, because I had already tried to get my Diddy on. I was trying to manage it. You know what I mean? I had my hand in producing, in production. And at the time, anyone who knows, I'm not gonna say my age, but whatever. Nah, I'm young. I'm
young OG, triple OG. They can't come for you, Mohit.
I'm young old, you know what I mean? But at the time, if you really wanted to be a hip hop or R&B producer, you needed to have the Korg Triton keyboard. You needed to have that. That was the thing. And so I was messing around with that. And the reason why I was just getting into that is because I was so passionate about going into the music business that I ended up leaving CJEP and going into music school. And when I started doing that, I started really taking things seriously. And I'm an outsider again. I'm from Montreal. There was no industry in Montreal at the time. There was barely an industry across Canada at the time. It was very Toronto-centric, which in a way it still very much is, which is where I live now, and a little bit of like Vancouver. But there was nothing in Montreal outside of the French scene. And so I had to go online and find people. And I had to just pitch myself as this outsider, as this kid. And so I was just actively trying to do that. And the way that I kind of first found my purpose was like, anyone I connected with, people were just like, yo, you don't seem really clear on what you want. Like, they wouldn't say this directly. It wasn't like I was so clear on what I want to do, but everyone just believed in me. They're just like, you talk that talk. You know what we're talking about. Like, I connect with you.
Yeah.
You're comfortable being vulnerable with me. And that's when I realized, shoot, I'm a middle child. From all these things that I went through, I oftentimes felt like the diffuser in moments of high tension. And because of that, I was able to connect with people in a different way that made them feel like, no, like you're being heard, because I actually do care to resolve situations. I did not like tension. And that was the first time I started to recognize a little bit of my purpose. But then as I continued to get older, I would go to these conferences. I would do all this stuff, and I would continue to get to meet people, but I still felt like an imposter. I think the most meaningful thing that ever happened to me when it comes to purpose was a few years ago, which is one of the reasons I became far more public with my work in the healthcare in healthcare and healthcare equity, and being more public about my own journey. I was sitting down with a physician, and in Toronto we have one of the largest organ transplant research centers in the world, and so the lead of the department, who was just saying, he's like, I'm not saying this doesn't exist, but I'm just letting you know that I have not really seen data that indicates that someone who was born with the same rare genetic illness as you, who has lived as long as you, who also received I've received a liver transplant, right? So who received a liver, and it's still only on the first one, because usually after 15 years, if you're still with us, you have to get a second one, because the first one, he's like, I haven't really seen data of someone was born with the same rare genetic illness, who's received a liver transplant, who's lived as long and healthy as you, who's not white. And I did not have to think. Immediately, it just clicked in me, because everything that I just felt in me, I was like, this is why I'm here. And while everyone, including him, was just like, you should be proud, I was livid. I was so mad, because I don't want to be proud for being an exception. This should be the norm. You know what I mean? This should be the norm. The majority of people who are born with the same situation are newborn girls of Central and Northeastern African descent, and more recently, like of Japanese descent, right?
Wow.
So when you have the majority of people who are born with this kind of an illness, who are coming from racialized communities, who, even when their families are in North America, still have lower access to all the healthcare resources, and you're telling me that I'm an exception because somehow I just happened to make it, and I'm still in rock solid health. After all these years, even though all this data said that I was not going to make it past the age of 2 or maybe 5, the fact that I'm still here, nah, that's my purpose, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that this is not just about me. I'm just going to use my story to help promote my little soapbox to make sure that everyone's got access, because I'm not happy that I'm the exception. I want it to be the norm. That's when it really hit me, and I was like, no, this is my purpose, hands down.
Yeah, that's definitely, man, listen, I'm over here like, oh my God. Because Mohit, you just, you talk. This is why I want to have you on a podcast. Because I'm just like, listen, people don't realize like just how much, man, just how much we are blessed to have encounters with different people. And you never know who you may come across, right? Like it all just boils down to like, what space are you in your life where you're willing to open your eyes to see the workings of God and to see like they're daily, like they happen all around us. And so for me, when you just talk about, you know, like not being okay with being the exception, listen, that's something that was placed into you before you got here, because please be clear, like it's a lot of people out here who would just run with that opportunity. Like I'm the exception. I'll accept that. I'm okay. I'm good with not, you know, making this about my life's purpose, not trying to shed more awareness to what's happened with me and more education. A lot of people would have just been completely comfortable with just living their life and not being that. But no, you are choosing to uplift and spread more awareness to the health disparities that we have, specifically in terms of, you know, people of color communities, you know, disadvantaged communities that do not have access to quality health care. And as someone who is from the city of Flint, Michigan, where we are still not having clean water, and there's children out here, you know, that have been getting poisoned with this water, still having to drink the water, having their own health disparities, and then that transfers into education and all of these cognitive disabilities. I personally just am so just like grateful to be aligned with you in this year and just to have came across you, because the world needs more people like you to spread more awareness. The world needs more people like me who are just like, I see you, right? Same thing you said to that younger kid who was in a similar position, and you were just like serving as that middle child, right? Not wanting there to be any tension. You're the communicator. You're the person that wants to bring balance. And so I just wanted to be that for you and say like, man, listen, I see you. And I just, you get me emotional about it.
I love you, Kat. And you know what? You're so right though, because even talking about like Flint, Michigan, and people don't realize that it's still an ongoing issue. Like they still don't realize. I've been speaking with a few people who work in the healthcare system there and who are working in like public health there, and just like how do we address these things? And I think that's one of the important things too. Like when you know, oftentimes, and that's why I really appreciate like our connection too, and like, even with like your first questions about like, you know, 90s and 2000s hip hop and R&B and like what songs are online, because that's something that I do too. Like when I'm hosting conversations around health equity, you best believe I'll be dropping Fresh Prince references, saying lyrics, you know what I mean? I'll be talking about Pac, like that's what it is. And I think one of the important things that I like to do is understand your own power, understand your own strength. We oftentimes think about what's our weakness, what do I have to strengthen? Forget about that for a second. What makes you you? Like we're not our parents or our grandparents' generation. You don't go to school for one thing, have one skill set, and work in an assembly line where that's the only thing that you do. Nah, we live in the we come up in the information age. We have access to so much info. You could be the most cheerful bank teller in the neighborhood bank branch and be the illest graphic designer who's just happened to got this booming like Shopify store selling like your designs on socks. Like who knows? You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do. That's who we are. So the way that I like to approach things too is how do we bring some of these heavier topics? Because health and all these issues around inequities, they're heavy. But how do we bring them with a little bit more flavor so that do we have to like, we don't have to do this code switch, you know what I mean? To have those conversations. Now we are who we are. We're going to talk about it the way that we talk about it. But at the same time, how do we do something like, how do we host an ill conversation about the new Nas album or something, and at the same time have a small way of maybe saying, you know what, let's do this quick little interlude. If you're interested in participating in like donating towards this thing, or like here's a way that you could help, because we're still bringing people in from within the community that oftentimes either are not heard or often are not in the conversations where they can understand their power of being able to be of civic duty or of humanitarian benefit.
Yes.
So how do we bring more of us into these conversations? Let's have a little bit of fun with it sometimes too. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be heavy, and it doesn't always have to fall into the institutional communication channels. Nah, let's do it the way we do it. Let's use our platforms. Let's use our power.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, Mohit. As soon as you said flavor, you want to know the first thing came to my mind is Cliff Mac flavor in your ear. I'm gonna hit y'all with that drop because that's what we are. That's what we are. That's what we seek.
Now.
Yes.
No.
That's what we seek to bring y'all.
Song, the remix on cassette tape.
You gotta know cassette. Oh Lord, yes. See y'all, Mohit. I told y'all. OG, triple OG.
You can see part of the record collection in the back. I got the records. I got the cassettes. I got the CDs. I got a couple 8-tracks. I got mini discs. I'm a music librarian. I'm a historian. Like I'm legit trying to build a music library to pass on to generations as well, and like tell stories through a lot of music. But like I still got that on tape. Trust.
Yes. Look, that's Mohit, that's dope. I hope to be like you when I grow up one day. Listen. Oh man. See, you got me fired up, Mohit, because you just you just said so much, man. Just like using our platforms, not having to have these conversations in the institutionalized format, being able to reach people who it's meant to reach. Because a lot of conversations that we have within these institutions, it's really not reaching the folks that really need it. It's really reaching folks who have the access, who have the resources, right? But when we talk about specific things, a lot of times you just got to be boots on the ground. Like you got to have people who are willing and who are already there in those communities to be able to serve as that middle child, right? Like to be able to provide that platform. And so I just love that. And another thing that you just talked about regarding like making sure that the voices of folks from these communities and from these places is being elevated. It makes me think about this post that I saw on Instagram. And the post was basically saying that no one is really voiceless. So when you have the opportunity to speak, don't speak for a population. When you have the opportunity to speak, pass the mic to the person. And I think that that's something that we see a lot, especially as it happens in broader media, right? Concerning topics of, disparities and what's going on in these challenging communities, is you have folks who want a leader or folks who want a person to go up and talk about, these are specific struggles, but being someone who recognizes the importance of having your own voice and owning your own voice, I think that we need more people who are willing to deny themselves from the mic and pass it to the folks who need their voice needs to be elevated. Because just because you have a mic doesn't mean that you have to speak. Like not everyone should have an opinion.
No, you're right. And that's the thing. Like oftentimes people say something like, and I'll just give you straight up examples of like what I've experienced in the past year, just the past year, right? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when people, you do a panel, you do a conference or something, and someone introduces me and they'll say like, oh, community leader. It's like, okay, that's cool and all that, but really it's not about leading. It's about being a conduit, right? If you truly believe in community, you are that conduit, and that's part of the passing the mic analogy that you gave, because I think it is important. Oftentimes, I remember a few months ago I was doing this conference and the host introduced me and said, Mohit Arora, and like, giving voice to the voiceless. And I was like, when it was my turn to speak, I was like, I appreciate the intro, but I do want to make a correction, because I don't give a voice to the voiceless. All I'm doing is amplifying certain voices, and I'm tuning the ears of those who might not have been listening before. And that's what it essentially is, right? We are like those old school, like if you've watched Mad Men or any of these old things, like it's that old school telephone operator. All I'm doing is connecting one cable to like one jack to the next jack through a cable. I'm that cable. I'm that conduit. That's the only thing that I do. So half the time, what I'm doing is not, it's the knowledge that I attain and the information that I attain from all the books that I read, everything that I live, everything that I do, every conversation I continue to participate in. All I'm doing is trying to better understand, how do I help make things connect? It's funny because I come from, like, I have a very weird and diverse, like, professional background. Part of that is working on brand strategy, right? And oftentimes when people are like, well, you know, and coming from the music world where I spent the majority of my career, how many times did we see, like, you know, like a rapper blows up, they launch a record label, then they drop, you know, a clothing line, a clothing line, a record label, an energy drink somehow, a social network, like they drop like 15 million things. And you're like, yo, where's the connection? First of all, build your fan base, right? But what I like to do when I build brand strategies for anything, for an artist, for content, for non-for-profit and humanitarian initiatives, bring it down to basics. Connect the dots. Really, that's all you got to do. And so every time I meet someone, every time there's a new barrier that I'm noticing that is creating access inequities for whatever it may be, education, health, all these different things, my role is to just jot down all these things as dots, and then all the information that I continue to learn, all the people I continue to meet. How do I become the cable that says this dot and this dot need to be connected? I don't need to insert myself in everything. It doesn't even have to be about me. Like, let me be invisible. I'm just there. I should be part of the infrastructure, but like, okay, connect these because I care about the purpose. I have these Post-it notes all over my place.
Same. What?
Yeah, right. And what, I'm not gonna lie, people used to clown me on this, but I don't really care. I got that idea from Gabrielle because I used to watch Being Mary Jane all the time. So, like, listen,
Mo, let me find out. You my soulmate. Let me find out.
Being Mary was tremendous. It was such a great show. But part of it was, you know, I have this one Post-it note on the side because of all the social impact work that I do. And social impact should not be owned by anyone. If like, it's the cause should never be owned. Right? Cause is a collective thing. So if I'm connecting these dots, why do I need to insert myself in it? I don't need to own it. If it's working towards that benefit of the world and of people, that's all that matters. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you know you're truly connected to a cause. You don't insert yourself into it. So yeah, so like, how do we connect these things? How do we continue to, like, help people move forward? Use what you know. You know, podcasting, do something with that. You know, help people host and moderate those conversations, which is something that I love to do. I love to, like, help amplify those voices and pass that mic, like you said. I did one last night, and I was just like, I'm the one, like, you know, cis hetero man on the stage, and it was just like, okay, this is your conversation. So this community that I look like I built, I might have helped create, like, organize it, but I believe in everything you're doing. This is your community now.
Yeah, and I love it. See, Mo, we here because that's like going into my next question. So, once again, for the folks who are not on Clubhouse, I need y'all to, if you are interested, just, you know, go get the app, you know, go see if it may interest you. But yeah, like, Mo, you had a room Tuesday in your health equity club. And the topic was owning your health, Black women and fertility. And then last month, technically last year now in December, you had a room celebrating 7 years of the Black Messiah. So if y'all don't know what the Black Messiah is, I'm gonna get y'all a drop real quick. Okay. But now that y'all know, it's D'Angelo.
Right there.
You already started to talk about it, but like, how do you utilize self-awareness and understanding of your identities, whether that be your intersectionalities? And for my folks who are listening, intersectionalities is pretty much the various identities that you hold as a person. So myself, I am a woman. I am a woman of color. I could be a first generation college student. You know, I could be the first entrepreneur of my family, but that's basically what intersectionality is. All of those identities that play a role into your overall being. And so for you, Mohit, like, just for example, with those 2 rooms, how do you utilize your understanding of your identities when you're navigating and moderating those rooms?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not gonna lie, Clubhouse helped with that a lot. I joined pretty early on, like right after it entered the App Store.
He's the OG, y'all.
not the OG, but I definitely I'm grateful that I got in relatively early just to be able to observe, because I love observing patterns, right? Maybe that's part of the music thing. Like I tend to like observe, everyone looks at the wave, I'm looking at all the ripples, right? Like pay attention to the ripples. And same thing with people. You got to pay attention to what people are doing, because everyone's looking at the big celebrities, but pay attention to who's doing the groundwork, because people who are going to create the bigger waves, right? Celebrities oftentimes are just the face, but
yes,
behind it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But with Clubhouse, I think, it's the first time that we saw a social media platform where, okay, let me phrase it this way. Instagram. How many times have we seen people who they have their Instagram account and then they have their business Instagram account, and they have like 5 Finstas, And for anyone who's not familiar with the Finsta, it's like the private Instagram account for like certain friends and all this. It's because of these different ways that we would silo our identity, and not to get super deep into this, but that's a big part of like white supremacy as well, to be honest with you, because it makes us feel like we can't showcase our full identities and that we have to conform to certain restrictions within what an identity means. But the versatility of being able to showcase your intersectionality is something that allows you to understand the empowerment that is within you, that what you are, who you are. So on Clubhouse, because they promoted, real names, real identities, and because it was all audio, it was very ephemeral before replays and all these abilities to like archive certain things. I was able to join a conversation. The first few conversations I ever joined on Clubhouse, I think it was the first night that I ever joined, in September 2020, was the first day I joined. In that evening, there was just this room with a bunch of people, and we were just talking like I don't know what happened, but we were just talking hip hop and R&B, and it was like maybe 12 of us, and we just had so much fun, and we were clowning on each other. We were clowning on each other's like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just kind of roasting each other, like, why'd you talk about this track with Baby Bash? Like, what are you talking about, Baby Bash? I can't. You just Baby Bash? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So it was like that kind of rooms. We were just kind of roasting each other, just cracking jokes or whatever it was. And then, maybe the next day I'd wake up and I'm having a conversation about, health or healthcare, or I might be joining a conversation and we're talking about entrepreneurship and whatnot. Nowadays, it's all these conversations about like NFTs and the metaverse and Web3.
Yes.
Right. So we have all these conversations, but I was like, because it was so ephemeral and there's no way of tracking what that info is, I was like, yo, I could legitimately showcase all these different versions of me in the same space under my name. And it blew my mind, because I always thought about that with social media. I used to actually delete my tweets after like a week, all of my tweets. And I do the same thing with Instagram, where there was like a 4-year period where I would not post anything on my timeline. Everything, once they introduced story, or maybe not 4 years, but a few years. But as soon as they introduced stories, I would just post stories, or I would post a post on my timeline and then delete it or later on archive it and all that, because I never wanted people to be like, that's who that is. I wanted them to just see what I was up to in that moment, right? But now I understand the power of it. Like, ultimately, if I'm hosting a conversation about D'Angelo's Black Messiah, or I'm hosting a conversation or I'm not even hosting, but I'm helping to amplify a conversation about Black women and fertility, then ultimately my purpose, it's about it's about love, right? Like one of my, like it's that's what it is. So my life motto and the name of one of my organizations is Love Hamesha. Hamesha means always in Hindi, in Sanskrit, and so, you know, love, it's not just the typical sense of what we understand love to be in the romantic sense, but when we look at it from a very spiritual sense, one of my guiding principles in life is the law of nonviolence, which is ahimsa in the Vedas, and it's this Vedic principle of you know, we've heard about karma, we've heard about dharma, we've heard about all of these different Vedic philosophies, but ahimsa, which a lot of us know because of Martin Luther King Jr., we know of it because of Gandhi, but the law of nonviolence, violence is not just physical harm, it's any thought, action, or speech that is meant to divide people. Love is very much the opposite. It's about uniting people.
Yeah.
And my thing is, so whether I'm talking about, you know, healthcare issues, whether I'm talking about D'Angelo, whether I'm talking about, you know, the Will Smith book and Fresh Prince, all of these things, it's meant to unite. It's to make sure that we feel comfortable in who we are and our interests. It's not to code switch. It's not to make us fit in. It's to help us feel belonging, and it's to unite us. So whatever it's about, it's done with the intention to unite us based off of our interests and our common goals in our lives. So ultimately, that's how it all ties in. So as long as it's tied and based in love, like you said at the very beginning, as long as it's based in love and that idea of love, of uniting us, and uniting us also to ourselves, which is an important thing that we often forget.
Yes, there's the order.
Ultimately, that's what matters to me. You know? I'm not going to limit myself to say I can only do these things about health, because that would also be really heavy, and it would be kind of, at a point, it would get boring.
Yes, you get burnt out.
You get burnt
done.
Yeah, and I'll just say this final thing, but that's one of the reasons why I really started going real heavy with the health conversations in the past few years, because I get into a lot of conversations, and I work closely with a lot of doctors, with a lot of healthcare professionals and healthcare organizations and all that. But the problem is, the majority of these conversations are being hosted by and being controlled by people who work within the institutions. From the perspective of a racialized patient, and the word patient is very contextual. You're only a patient when you're in that power dynamic with the physician. Other than that, I'm a person, right? But the problem is when the conversations with community are continuing to be held by those who have influence or are working as part of the institution and part of the system, it continues to only feed back into confirmation bias. On Clubhouse, I used to be involved in all these different rooms with all these other doctors, and they do all these COVID rooms and these town halls and all that. The problem is, look at the way that they converse with people who are hesitant about vaccines, or the way that all these things are going, and these like misinformation and all that. What ends up happening is more division. Like, oh, you don't agree with me? Don't attack me. You're stupid. You're stupid. No, man. Like, listen, everyone has access to different pieces of information based off of different confirmations, different generational stigmas, different community-based understandings. Just try to understand why someone might be thinking the way they think.
Yeah.
And try to create more communication to at least be able to help each other better understand how we can work together. But I need to do more of those health conversations. I needed to do more of them, because I can't continue just having people from within the institution do it, because oftentimes they may be great at their profession. They're not good at community. They're not. They're good at their own community.
Yeah.
That community as a whole, unfortunately.
Not the collective. Yeah.
Not the collective. If you don't know how to have a healthy discourse with someone who disagrees with you, and not go around the next corner and just start venting and bashing people and all that, then just stay out of the conversation in the public spheres, please. So me getting into like, yeah, let's talk about the trumpet on that one joint on D'Angelo's album. Let's do this. Yo, I'm talking the way I talk. So if you connect with that, maybe we could connect about this other topic. If we can't, it's all good. But we still have a common understanding and a common love. And the more that you understand and love me, and the more I understand and love you, at least we'll be able to respect each other from different angles of a topic without feeling like we hate each other just because we have differing opinions.
Man, see, listen, Mohit, like, my struggle. You and I have briefly shared a conversation where I had to just like let you know about how I was feeling, just on my reservations, because I joined Clubhouse December of 2020, and so like there is a huge difference between the rooms that I saw then versus the rooms that I'm seeing now, and also just like with navigating the platform with it being so new, it's interesting to me just how there is an elitism that is taking place. And I think that happens on any basic social media platform, right? You have folks that are known, folks who have learned the algorithms, folks who have learned, what content is going to give what certain amount of viewers or listeners or whatever. And then you have those other folks that are just like easing into it, like trying to figure out like, what is this thing? And so I know I've talked to you about my own reservations with just like wanting to build an intentional brand, being authentic, while at the same time making sure that that I know how to filter out the noise, on these apps. And so when you talk about, your guiding principle being love, I would think of that as more so of like your home base. Like that's what you come back to when you go to all of these rooms and you're listening to all of these different perspectives. If you leave that room and then you don't feel like it gave you any sense of love or any uplifting or community building, that basically serves as like your filtration system. For me, I just see it like an example. It's kind of like a farmer, right? Like when farmers go out, when harvest comes in, and then it's time to gather the harvest, like they gather what's there, but then after everything is gathered, they really have to sit and sift through like the wheat and the husk, like what brings sustenance and elevation, nutrition and growth, and then like separates that from like the things that bring stagnation, stillness, and low thinking. And I'm finding myself doing that more, or having a need to do that more, especially, I won't say just in this new year, but just in this season of my life. Like, I feel like I'm stepping more into like an awareness of my purpose and what that can be. And so I'm very more intentional about what I'm subjecting myself to hear. And if it's not feeding me in this way, I kind of have to, figure out a way how to leave those conversations or leave those spaces without feeling like I have to just be one thing, if that makes sense. Like we talk about the brand, like I'm all about, uplifting. I'm all about healing. I'm all about, making sure that people are gaining access to quality content, to important conversations that aren't talking about rumors, right? Because if you're making your living off of someone's life, how's that adding you value? It's just bringing more attention to their name. It's like you are amplifying someone else's name. And so for me, I've just really wanted to be intentional with that in terms of this platform and who I'm becoming. Like, I want to be a space that people can come to talk about the important information. And at the same time, like have fun. We can chill. We don't have to spend our time on daily news, rumors, update. Like, that's not my ministry. That's not my ministry. But you really helped to encourage me to, not limit myself in terms of like the spaces that I go into. Because I do have different facets of my identity. But just hearing this conversation, hearing your perspective more about like you operating off of love, I think that provided for me, like the bigger picture, that it's okay to navigate these different spaces. You're going to be in spaces with rooms with people that you're not going to agree with, where the conversation is really kind of and that's when you realize your potential purpose there. Like maybe your purpose or maybe my purpose there is to elevate the conversation, but recognizing like what is my core value or morals that are allowing me to filter out. Even if I don't agree with you on this thing, I'm going to make sure that I express with love and that I receive with love, and knowing when it's okay, to leave or no longer to engage in those dialogues. So thank you.
Oh my, no, it's my pleasure. And thank you for showing up as you, for real. Because like you said, with this whole thing, talking about the intention of love, part of those Post-it notes, and one of my favorite guiding phrases that I look at, and I'm looking at it right now because it's up here above my desk, because I look at it every time I speak, whether it's on the phone, on Clubhouse, on with a friend, or on a podcast, whatever it is, whatever I do, I always think about one sentence, and it's the thing that I truly believe in, and it says, before you speak, ask yourself, are you speaking with intention, or are you speaking for attention? Right?
Woo!
Intention versus attention. So when I'm joining some of those conversations as well, I'm like, okay, well, they may not be very rooted in purpose because all they're focused on is attention. And that's the problem when you are, or it's not, I don't want to call it a problem necessarily, because I don't want to approach it from a judgmental perspective. Some people's intention is attention. But the problem is when you look at the content that is created for attention, solely for attention, oftentimes, if you look in the long term, a lot of the personalities or the content that is formatted for attention is not rooted in purpose. And that might just be what people believe. Like maybe someone does not want to execute their content through a place of purpose. Maybe it's just maybe their purpose is profit and popularity. And that's one of the reasons why I built why I started getting a little bit more adamant about my own platform. I spent so much time building other people's platforms in the music industry, major celebrities, people who have global stages, who are household names. And I got very tired when something would happen in the media and journalists would come to them and ask them a question, and I would hear them respond saying, but I'm not a role model. And maybe that's their own intention. That's a whole other conversation, but it just did not align with what I felt. And like I said earlier, there are so many more people behind the celebrity. And when I knew my role in building those platforms and building some of these major celebrities, I did not feel comfortable with it because I'm so rooted in purpose.
Yeah.
So even though I can turn, like my ability to speak on, I'm still very much introverted. I've spent my whole life in the behind the scenes because I wanted to hide identity. Now I've been fighting so hard to get a bit more comfortable letting people know who I am and stepping away from being in the shadows, only because it is my absolute intention to build a platform because I have a purpose. And so all I'm doing is organizing a community. I'm not trying to create something for no reason or just for whatever. If you understand the true power of platform and you have a purpose, you can make some waves. And it's not about making waves for you, for me. It's about making waves for us. How do we do this? So, ultimately, when I step into these rooms, when you step into these rooms, we know sometimes it's intention, but oftentimes it's just attention.
Mohit! Oh, look, if I could cry right now, I'm crying. I'm like, oh my goodness. Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm so appreciative of you, just because I feel like this is what I needed. I hope that listeners, this is something that you needed. And if not, I hope that you got something from it, because I know that this is something that I for sure need in this space that I'm in, man. You talk about so much, like having a purpose, having a platform that's about purpose, because it can be discouraging being someone who is very intentional about the platforms that I create, and wanting them to revolve around purpose, especially when it's just like, man, listen, when you spend time, like for you, you're building other communities or building other spaces behind the scenes. Yours was within the music industry. Mine was more so in the education space. And I'm just like, there's so much more to me, but it's just not going to be, I can no longer invest it here. Like, this is not the only space for me. This is not the space that is going to cultivate all of me. I learned the skills. I learned certain things to pick up that's going to make me greater at whatever my overall purpose is that I'm about to walk into or already currently walking into. But just getting more comfortable, getting more comfortable with myself. Two, as you would say, these are some of your favorite words, even in our short time, learn like talking to each other. This is something that I will always take from you in any conversation, is to get out of my own way. That's what I'm currently in the process of doing, is just like getting out of my own way. Like not self-sabotaging, you know, getting out of that type of mindset. Like if it's not this, if it's not perfect, you know, if it doesn't perform in a certain way that I think it's supposed to perform, it's like comparing attention to, what was the second word? Attention
versus
to
attention.
Versus what second? Attention versus intention. Yes, that's what I find myself doing or have done in the past, comparing attention versus intention. And when you see what is just like pushed out there in the forefront is the attention, the things that are going to grab you, the drama, the haze. So to be someone who is kind of in the background, as you talked about, who's still in this space, is like, I feel like I'm fighting to find my people, just like my people are fighting to find me, like through the haze. Like we got to get through the haze to find each other. And then when we find each other, it's like, hey, Mohit, man, what? Yeah. I found you. Like, hey. And that's the challenging part, which is why I called the podcast the Intermission Podcast. Like, this is a space, this is that in-between space, right? Like whenever you have a show or whenever you have something, there's a break, a time in between that you have to just take, where it's just like, okay, what's happening? And we see so much especially when you talk about like artists or anyone in the creative space, we see these brands, we see these people out in the forefront, but we don't really see what's going on behind the scenes. We don't see what it took for that person to get there. We don't see all those many different people behind the scenes making, you know, pushing that and making that happen. And so for me, I've been very intentional just about telling folks my journey in this process of just growing and evolving, even down to the very challenging parts of like chasing or striving for like fulfillment of purpose and manifestation of purpose, to the point that I'm willing to sacrifice mode. I'd have slept on couches mode. I'd have been through it.
I feel you.
I'm like, okay. So it's like, I'm serious. The more I feel like I start to walk towards it, the more I'm finding that a lot of sacrifices are going to have to be made to get there. But that's why this is here, to document that, so that when other people who may be going through similar journeys, they can listen to this in real time. Like, no, if you see me on a billboard somewhere tomorrow, you can turn on this podcast and know that I was not doing what you thought I was. I was on here with Mohit. Talk about purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
So man, Mohit, this is my last question for you, and then I'm gonna let you go, my mans. As I'm branching out and just becoming more accepting, as I talked about, and aware of my uniqueness, impact, and purpose in rooms, whether it's rooms that have already opened or going to present open doors for me this year, or even in the rooms on Clubhouse, what further advice, because you've already given me some dope advice, what further advice or encouragement you have for me that I can keep with me to defeat that imposter syndrome before the doors open and I walk through?
This is such a good question, and it's something that I think I've only been able to better understand it through my journey, because of what I uncovered when I was, you know, starting to finally reap the benefits of therapy, to be able to you know, kind of like you said, like push through the fog, you know, and through the haze. But you know, imposter syndrome is oftentimes it's self-sabotage, right? It's this mentality. Have you ever read, I know everyone talks about The Art of War, but have you ever read The War of Art? The War of Art is a book by Stephen Pressfield, who wrote, there's another Will Smith connection, because he wrote Legend of Bagger Vance. But he wrote a book called The War of Art. It's such a good book because he talks about this in particular. He talks about the imposter syndrome and the self-sabotage. He uses examples when, someone's working, let's say, a 9 to 5, and all of a sudden, they become good friends with all their coworkers, and then all of a sudden they get the promotion, and they're like, they don't want to take it because they're afraid of losing that bond, and for their colleagues to be like, oh, well, who are you now to call shots to me,
Yeah.
But I think as we continue to do what we do, one, it's developing just a belief in the process, in the consistency of showing up. It's a belief in just what you're doing. The imposter syndrome, I've fought with it for the majority of my life, and still in many ways still do to this day. But I'll be honest with you, like, because I told you in the beginning, like, I've always felt like an outsider. I didn't get the same kind of education. I've had to figure out 99% of what I figured out in my life just on my own terms.
Yeah.
I still learn very differently from people because I didn't have those same fundamentals. I have to reread things 15 million times just to maybe grasp a portion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But imposter syndrome starts to alleviate when you become so intensely rooted in your purpose. And when you understand, when you are so intently rooted in your purpose, and you start to understand why your life journey is the way that it has been. Earlier, you mentioned your background in education.
Yeah.
And how you saw certain, there's a certain strengths there, but there's also certain barriers there. You might have not connected with the industry necessarily.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you were led into education and why you did that. There's a certain strength that you gain from that. So no matter what it is that you do, there will likely be some form of how you provide education to others and how you communicate in an accessible way to other people, which is the best way of doing that is through education, because you are educating people. And so I think when you start to understand the skill sets that you've developed, even in your personal life, one thing people don't pay enough attention to is the skill sets that you develop in your personal life. We call them soft skills, which is such a minimizing way of addressing them. But if you've ever solved a conflict within family, within friends, if you've ever been that person who's just really good in emergencies when everyone else is panicking, you're like, nope, we got to do this, that.
Yes.
All those different things, they're part of what makes you you. So start just taking like a little inventory of some of these things and start to recognize, what does that mean? Where are you able to better, utilize those skills?
Yeah.
How do they help your ultimate purpose? And I'll share this because you and I have many similarities, but one of them is in the way that, we use our voice in a lot of what we do, whether it's a Clubhouse, a podcast, whatever it is. When you're sharing something with someone, whether a personal phone call or whether through a room or a podcast, pay attention to the things that people relate to when you say them, and recognize there's a reason why that it's relating to people, because not only do they feel connected to it, but you said it from a place of knowledge, of experience. And make a note of those things too, because that is going to help you. But when you start looking at all this inventory list, you're going to start recognizing, shoot, this is what I already am.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the best way of removing imposter syndrome is to remember who the F you are. You know what I mean? Remember who the heck you are, like straight up. And I will just say, I think a big part of it, just remembering everyone is going through the same thing. If you had to give a younger person, a sibling, a nephew or niece, someone that you care about, if they came to you with advice, how would you address them? And
with
then,
love.
Yeah. And ask yourself, like, picture someone, picture someone that you really care about, who's younger, who you really want to see succeed. If they came to you and they asked you the exact same question you just asked, ask yourself, how would you talk to them? And then remember, wait a second, why don't I speak to myself with the same level of grace and kindness? Why am I blocking my own knowledge to apply to myself? Because we have so much more of the knowledge that we seek in us, we just sometimes don't apply it to ourselves. Why not?
Yeah, it's that pressure, man. I talked to I had a guest on the podcast last week, and I had Nice on the podcast last week, and we were talking about I came up with this like phrase, man. It was the Trailblazer Syndrome. Like, if it's not a real thing, somebody needs to make it a real thing, because I think when you're doing something that you think hasn't been done before, because I think in essence what you're doing, it has been done before, but just not to the level or the extent or the width of whatever it is, how you're doing it. So, but when you're in it and you feel like you're creating a path that has not ever been traveled, a lot of the times you get the people questioning you like, well, what are you doing? And what does this mean? And how are you going to make that work? You're going to do what? And so you spend a lot of your time answering and trying to prove to other people what you're doing, that you really lack or sometimes fall short of just like sitting with yourself and going back to your why. Like, what am I doing? And what is like the purpose in all of this? And that being a consistent thing. Like, you talk about showing up and being consistent. I don't want audiences to think like, just showing up and doing that thing. Like, for me, it's not just simply showing up and doing the podcast every Monday, which could be challenging, y'all. I go front. Listen. But it's also being consistent and showing up in reflection with myself, showing up in those other spaces where I'm growing, whether it's showing up in therapy. I recently got a spiritual coach who is my pastor, like showing up on my coaching sessions and going through that material and spending time really figuring out, like you said, these specific qualities that I've gained in different parts of my life, whether personal, professional, or spiritual, and how those align to the greater purpose. I want people to gain out of this part of the conversation, like showing up consistently to those spaces is important, because that's really how you can remain balanced while you're navigating the haze. Like, consistently showing up to those spaces is what will help you, and what I'm finding is helping me.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's showing up consistently for your purpose. Ultimately, that's what it is. It's showing up for you. It's showing up for your purpose. So, I'll give you a very tactical thing, but like the ways that I conduct my day, I start my day with stating my intention for the day, right?
Okay.
My overall intention that I have, and I'll reflect upon that. But today, what is something that I really want to accomplish? Two, what is something I'm going to do to serve my purpose today? And three, who is someone that I could reach out to and potentially help today? And oftentimes, I mean, I wasn't going to include it, but I'll also include the fourth one, which is what is something I'm going to do for myself today? Because I need to fuel myself. I need to feed back into myself. And at the end of the day, I try to wrap up my evenings by writing down, how well do I feel like I accomplished my intention for the day in general? And I don't go based off that, because it's not meant to be a legitimate scorecard.
Yes.
Coming from someone who comes from like I had battled depression in the past. So early when I was talking about it, like I worked through a lot, because it was all based off of this imposter syndrome, essentially, right? That's one of the big things that it comes down to, is just not feeling that self-love, not feeling all that. And that's what kind of continues fueling back into that. But when I wrap up my days by thinking, how did I execute upon my purpose today? How well did I show up? And I might do a 1 to 10 type of just random thing, but it's not meant to be like, on this thing I got an A, on that thing I got a B. But it's just meant to look at the end of the week and think, do I need to be a little bit more active, in my day to day, to show up in my intention? And I've been doing that for 2 years now, and it really helped me show up in my purpose. Because it reminds me every single day. I also, most people, they start their day with like a to-do list. I actually start with one thing at the top of everything, and that's my to feel. It's not my to do, it's my to feel. So I know I'm going to get into like a conversation, let's say, where I'm, talking about the creator world. Maybe you're about to negotiate a brand partnership. You're going to do this. You're going to speak with someone, and you're not sure how you're going to approach it because you might feel that imposter syndrome. You might feel undeserved, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Today, I'm going to write on a post note. I'm going to put at the top of my planner. I want to feel brave. Today, feel brave. Tomorrow, it's going to feel, I don't know, vulnerable because I've been feeling like I've been putting up this barricade. These are the things that I do to remind myself on a day-to-day. Forget about all these templates because so many of them, they show up so much more about like how to be productive. I don't want to be productive. I want to be good. You know what I mean?
I want to be in purpose.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you're productive, all you're doing is you're just basically saying that you're really good at doing tasks for someone else, probably. You know what I mean?
Or you're good at being busy.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that ain't a badge of honor no more. Like, oh, I'm so busy. No, forget all that. Who cares?
If COVID has taught us anything, I don't think anyone subscribes to just being busy anymore.
Exactly. I don't want to be busy and be there for, you know, if I'm busy, I'm basically saying what? I'm busy doing things that will take me away from loved ones. You know what I mean? Taking me away from me? Nah, man. Yeah. So anyways, I would just say like that's one thing, like starting your day with your set intention, with how you're going to serve your purpose, who you might be able to be of assistance to, and how you're going to serve yourself, and then wrapping your day with just a general guide. How do I feel like I executed upon that today? And at the end of the week, just saying, okay, do I need to start being a bit more intentional? Do I need to start being a bit more active rather? And then just approach it, and you'll notice you'll continue to get much better at being active in that. And that will move a lot of this imposter syndrome. That's a very long-winded answer to your question, but yeah.
No, but once again, this is about education, okay? Look, I'm going to bring in some education for these folks and for myself, because I know for me, listen, after we post this episode, I'm going to go back and listen for my own self and take some notes, because this is clear coaching right now. You giving us coaching for the free 99. So I hope y'all taking prime advantage of this wisdom real estate here. All right. Well, whoo. Mohit, you have blessed me today. I am full. I have eaten. I have my heart is full. And I know I said I was going to get back to this at the beginning of the episode, but like I said, John, Mohit is more than just a young OG, okay? Mohit has had some lifetime experiences. This man has been at Paisley Park and encountered Prince, okay? If you encountered Prince, it's something special about you, okay? It's something very special about you. And yes, Mo, when I do my research, you having your hand up the whole tour. I do my research, Mo. I'm on you.
Yeah, I'm on you. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh my gosh.
But I need y'all. I need y'all to go. And if y'all have not already, once again, if y'all have not already, download the, Clubhouse platform. See if you like it. See if it works for you. Do your onboarding. If you need somebody, I don't know if Mo is doing onboarding no more. He passed.
I mean, I've done them. I did them a lot when I first joined, but always still game to. I'm so bullish on it. I'm so adamant because I see the power of it.
Yeah.
That I want others, as long as someone is rooted in love and has a kind heart, then I want to see more people continue to participate in that and flourish into themselves. So I'm always game. To help with some onboarding.
All right, so y'all got what y'all needed. If it ain't rooted in love, don't slide in Mo's DMs or back channels, okay? Because he's not here for it. We putting that out here right now, okay? But I need y'all to go download that app. If y'all have not already, please go follow this man's rooms. So many rooms to talk about.
And yours. You be ill. Don't minimize yourself now. Don't minimize. Nah. I'm gonna blow you up though. I'm gonna blow you up. People need to be following you. Everything you do with the Intermission podcast, everything you do on Clubhouse, everything you post on the IG, you are so ill. You are rooted in love. You are rooted in purpose. You are absolutely someone who, no matter what it is that you're doing, I often think about this. Like, I know that I want to connect with people. It's based off this like Mother Teresa quote, but it's like how always leave people feeling better than when they first came to you. And I always feel better with every encounter that I have with you, whether it is directly or whether it's just through your content that you've already posted in the past and it's not live. But I always feel better. So that's when I know, like, nah, we need to be connecting with Cami more. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's coming. It's coming. Look, I got to learn. I'm trying to focus on one thing, y'all, because if you are creative, you know it can be a struggle, man. You come up with so many ideas. You just got to be in a season where you focused on one. So yes, y'all, a club could be coming on the way, but I'm gonna need a little time. Mohit is coaching me, okay, through this process.
Time you need. I'm here, and I'm gonna just say one thing: remove the word "try" from your vocabulary, because you ain't trying it. It might be rooted in intention, but it's kind of like saying the word hope. It's like, I want that, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. There's still doubt in there. No, you're doing it. You're doing it. Straight up.
Okay, I'm going to do this room. I'm gonna do this club. I'm gonna do this room. I'm gonna be fired. Look, okay, I'll put it out there.
And I got one question for you now.
Okay.
What 90s or 2000s track, hip hop and R&B, is the track that you would say is going to be like your motto, your mantra for the next year?
Oh, no, you did just put the page on my own podcast, Mohit. No, you did not.
Oh, I did.
Oh my goodness. What?
I know.
For the next year? And this is 90s to 2000s. Okay. Oh, God.
What? Did I just ask that?
Mohit. Wow, this is crazy. I don't even have one that comes to mind. Mine is not even 90s to 2000s.
What is it?
Oh, what's that Drake song? Wouldn't it be like 10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands? And it's not even discussion, man. OMG. Yeah. What is that song?
Oh my God.
Dang, what is that?
Oh my! I'm bad with song titles, but I know what you're talking about. I'm kicking the verse in my head right now. But hey, you're talking to a Toronto man's. Yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah, Toronto man. What y'all be saying? Go get your man's gym.
Yeah, I know. I joke about like being Toronto man's because that's also considered like a thing. But I just use it in jest. But like, yeah, that's.
Well, I'm gonna insert my Drake clip. I'm sorry.
Come on now.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I feel you. Get that bag.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if y'all have not already, I need y'all to go follow Mohit. Mohit, where can people follow you?
Clubhouse. My username is just the number 9, just 9, the digit 9. It's one digit. On Twitter, or just my website is mohitarora.xyz. That's where I just post my links or whatever.
Okay.
But I would say don't follow me, connect with me. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
You still teaching and we wrapping up. Okay, Mohit, I'm done with you. That's it. Y'all already know where y'all can follow me, newly_Cami. If y'all have not already, I need y'all to go look on your Spotify right now because I'm rolling out these new visuals for y'all. This is also going to be on YouTube. I'm trying to diversify the portfolio. So this video will be available on YouTube and the audio. Clearly, y'all listening to this. So go ahead and subscribe. Y'all support your girl. Become a subscriber, y'all, so y'all can get exclusive content as well. Because this is food, okay? I'm not a snack. I'm a whole meal. So get with it, okay? Yeah, Mohit. Had to hit him with it. But all right, y'all. It's been real. I appreciate y'all. Hope that y'all have an amazing day. And we are out. Peace.